All right. I think we're live, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
About 10 seconds in.
Cool. I cannot see who's on or how many people we have on, but if you're here, thanks for joining. Want to just go around and do a quick introduction, make it real quick, and then we can jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool, guys. So thanks for joining our first live stream on how to set yourself up for success around the holidays. I'm Jed Marley, Outbound Sales Development Manager here at PandaDoc, and I will hand it off to Haley.
Awesome. Thanks, Jed. I'm Haley Sobel. If you guys are following me, great. If not, I'm happy to meet all of you. Just click connect. I'd be glad to network with you guys. But I'm an outbound SDR here and really excited to be at PandaDoc. And I'll pass it off to Andrea.
Okay. I was told to hold on, but stopping.
We can't hear you.
We can't hear you.
It looks like there's connection issues and no one's on right now. So I'm going to end the stream and go live again. Sorry, guys.
I got a text saying that someone was on.
There's 50 people watching on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Oh,
Are we live?
Yeah, Angela, go give us a recap of your role, what you're doing, and then we'll go to Steve and we'll jump into it.
Yeah. So I'm Andrea Bowers. I'm also an outbound SDR with PandaDoc, and super excited to have everybody on here. What's up, Josh? He was in my class.
There we go.
And then yeah, also happy to connect with everybody.
Awesome.
Sick. At least people are telling us that we didn't break like LinkedIn Live. What's up, everybody? I'm Stephen Chase. I'm the team lead for Enterprise Outbound Sales Development at PandaDoc. People that have been following me for a while probably know me as the Sales Weasel. But yeah, happy to be here and talk about what we're doing for holiday success.
Cool, guys. Drop in the chat where you guys are listening in from. I'm in Detroit, Michigan. Maybe we got people all over on this call as well.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's start off with a question. Let's talk about what are you guys doing to kind of set yourself up for success with the holiday season, knowing that a lot of people are going to be out during the holidays for the last couple of weeks of the month. Obviously December, and just what you're doing from an outbound SDR perspective to set yourself up for success when a lot of people are going to be out of the office.
Steven, you look like you're anxious to answer.
No, I'm kidding. I mean, for me, it's really setting up for the holidays starts in November. I mean, you guys probably know that. As we get closer to the second, third week of December, getting people on the phone is going to be more difficult. Getting people in meetings before the holidays is going to be more difficult. So I usually start getting meetings set for the first 2 weeks of December and the last week of November. So I know me personally, I've got 5 or 6 meetings queued up to sit next week and just trying to stack on more this week as well.
Cool. I'm similar in that sense too. Making sure that your pipeline is, full, but not too full. So that way you can stay focused on like personalizing to some capacity, and just like making sure that you're following up on those reminders that said, check in with me at the end of the year. Those are going to be, the biggest wins for you as a sales rep, I personally find, especially during the holiday time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think really just humanizing everything. People are in the same position as you are. People are ready to, go eat with their families for Thanksgiving or even Christmas and other holidays and spend time with their families and really just don't want to be at work. So they have to be there just like you do. And you might as well have fun and get to know people that you're talking to and make it a good conversation and build those relationships.
Yeah. I think another, big thing, sort of to Haley's point of following up on those reminders is kind of looking for the maybe warmer prospects. So an example is pull up a list of everybody that you talked to in 2021, like a CRM report, and then call on those people that you had conversations with, whether or not you booked the meeting. But anybody you had a conversation with, call them back up in December and just say, hey, I know we spoke earlier in the year, wanted to follow up before the year's over and see if maybe it makes sense to set a meeting. Pretty easy thing to do to set up in like a CRM. Cool, guys. Let's talk about humanizing kind of the conversation. Andrew, you sort of touched on that a little bit during the holidays. Steven, I know you have some thoughts on this as far as whether or not you should use a permission-based opener or just going straight for the opener without using the permission-based. Should you change that with the holidays, knowing that some people are going to be out of the office? Should you ask for permission during the cold call? Does it really matter in the context of the holidays? And what's kind of your overall thought process on that?
Well, for me, I prefer a conversation first approach. So I don't usually have emails in the beginning of my sequences, and I don't think anybody on the enterprise team does at this point. And when it comes to the holidays, people are in the process of checking out whether anybody wants to admit it or not. So having fun on the phone, first, you should be having fun on the phone, period. But especially around the holidays, like the opener that I think I'm going to test going into next week is, hey, Jed, listen, it's the holidays, and I know you hate taking cold calls as much as I hate making them. But if you have a minute, would love to tell you why I was calling. Just to make it a little bit, acknowledging the fact we're getting to the holidays. It's not necessarily a time that anybody wants to be getting a cold call, and just kind of trying to disarm the prospects to maybe get into a more further conversation.
Yeah. I agree. I even want to touch on that a little bit too. If you're not one to be a permission-based opener, you can even just acknowledge the fact that, like, hey, it's the holidays. So, hey, Jed, Andrea with PandaDoc, I know I'm calling you at the end of the year. I'm just going to be super brief here and tell you why I'm calling, and just go right into it that way. And keeping it humanized and keeping it, personalized as well, to make the conversation go by a lot smoother.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, Steven's opener works so well for him. For me, I don't know if it's maybe my tone, but I take a different direction. And I do ask for permission, but in a different sense. So I do start off the conversation by saying, like, how are you? And then I kind of segue into, like, can I share why I'm calling? And then I talk about the holidays before then too. So I add the humanizing aspect to it before we even get into the conversation. And that's a way to essentially, like, just get in without even asking. And then that way you have something in common with them. You've built rapport. You're talking about the holidays. Everything is light. And then you can slowly transition into, talking about work stuff.
Being one of those cold calls too, actually, personally for me, I think kind of just like breaks people out of that stressful, got to finish up before the end of the year kind of moment, and like just calling them out of the blue. And instead of being like, hey, this is a cold call, like, just, hey, I know Christmas is coming up. I know you're probably trying to get that last minute deal, just being, human and joking around is actually probably like a light to some people as well.
Yeah. No, I agree, because then your actual tone comes out, and that's what's going to be most receptive to people on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, guys. Put it in the chat if you prefer using the permission-based opener or not. I know there's lots of hot opinions on that, so I'd be curious to see what people say.
Yeah.
Also,
on that too.
For the Atlanta people, go Dogs.
I have a
Cool,
question
guys.
for you, Jed, actually, around openers. Like, since we have been transitioning into the holiday times, have you gotten any super unique ones thrown your way, after Thanksgiving?
I have not really. I don't get a ton of cold calls. I haven't seen anything change too much. I think the ones that stand out the most to me are the ones that are super unique, like a pattern interrupt to, like, what Steven was talking about earlier, the people that can have fun. Because like I touched on, if you're willing to have fun and just try like wild stuff on the phone with an opener, it's going to be a pattern interrupt. Your natural tone is going to come across more. You're not going to sound like a robot. So I think it's always a good idea to try to mix things up. Like, have your go-to opener. But if you're making 100 cold calls a day, it's a good idea to just mix things up every now and then, try things that are fun, especially with sales leaders, because they get the grind, and most of them, they want to hear you kind of put on a show when you give them a call. So those sort of things are definitely going to work.
I think that's great now.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about, you use one of these permission-based openers or not, whatever your opinion is on that. And you get them on the phone, and they're like, follow up with me next year. We're going to hear a lot of those objections going in for the rest of the month, where they're saying, hey, this sounds interesting. Let's talk in January. Let's talk next year. I'll just throw it out to the group. What sort of approach and strategies are you guys taking to handle that objection of follow up with me next year, people pushing you off into January?
I think something for me that I like to ask on that is like, what's going to make the biggest difference within the next 2 to 3 weeks versus moving it into the new year? Like, what are your top initiatives right now, and how can we fit in with your timeline? Because then you get the timeline of when they're interested in purchasing. You have the incentive to like drive in the urgency, and you can kind of navigate the conversation from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think also by just digging in a little bit deeper, definitely respecting what they're saying and just, yeah, absolutely. Can I just ask, a few more questions or whatever? Just like Haley was saying, like ask what's the difference between now and then diving in just a little bit more, because you never know that they actually might have a problem that you could really help with right then and there to create a little bit more urgency. So even just having that conversation a little bit further, just being a person with them, you might actually make their problem at hand a little bit easier.
I think if people are pushing you off, digging into the reason why, not necessarily like making it the selfish aspect of trying to get the meeting, but labeling what they're saying is like, well, now's not a good time. Can we push this off till the new year? And then just coming back with, well, hey, it sounds like you're pretty slammed right now. Schedule's pretty full. Curious, would it be a crazy idea just to put some time on the calendar in the next couple of days? We know our product's not for everybody, but would at least love to get it in front of you, get some initial feedback. And if it makes sense to continue the conversation after the first of the year, we can definitely set up a secondary call if that works.
Mm-hmm. They also could be discussing budgets at this time too. So like budgets could be in the mix, contract changes, terms, anything like that could just be going on, where if you don't ask, like you were saying, Stephen, not necessarily for the selfish reasons, but to see if we could help. Like if you don't ask, you might also just miss out on a really great opportunity to show them the value that they're missing out on.
Exactly. And it's one of those things, it's like people are just busy now. Like that's the thing, is like if you've ultimately had the conversation, I mean, granted, my conversations are different than y'all's conversations and how we go about pitching the value of PandaDoc. But if you've built value in the product, you've learned that they have pains that we can solve, but they're just not ready at this point in time because of outside reasons, whether it's projects or whatever, digging in and then seeing, like I said, seeing if you can get into that initial conversation before the first of the year and then continuing it. It just kind of, it reduces the stress on the prospect, if that makes sense, to like, oh, they're going to make me pull out my checkbook on this call. It's like, no, we just want to see if there's a fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Most definitely. And I also feel like the first 2 weeks of December seem really hectic. I mean, I'm not in leadership by any means, but I can just tell like it's a very hectic time. And then towards the second half of December, it's when it's a little bit more laid back. So just being like, I get your schedule's pretty busy, driving into their need and what's going on and drive into their pain. And then say, look, like, we're just trying to have a brief conversation, have some fun, like enjoy the holidays and share that spirit with you. Like, why don't we sync up for just a conversation at the very least? And then if it makes sense, roll it into the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like one of the biggest mistakes you can make is going into the month of December around a holiday time and just assume that everybody's going to be pissed off at you for calling them, assume they're going to be out of the office. Like if you go in with that mindset of like, hey, everybody's out of the office anyway, what's the point of making a cold call? Or they're going to be pissed off if I do call them. You got to remove that mindset and just treat it like it's any other month. Good stuff, guys. We have a question from, doesn't say the name, just says LinkedIn user. What do you think about assumptive selling? Kind of an open-ended question, I guess, but I'll throw it to the group. If you want to provide any additional context to it, I think assumptive selling, at least my understanding of it, is something that we try to, implement and talk about a lot of PandaDoc. But I guess what are your guys' thoughts on assumptive selling and using that during December?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it can go one of two ways. It just depends on your delivery. So, going for the option close, like, oh, does next Monday work for you, or is Tuesday better, or something like that. I didn't say it per se the right way, but, going for that, assumptive close, I think it will help in terms of getting a timeline in place and getting them to at least commit to this time period. I think that it's something that we all try to implement on our team, and it works very well for us. And I think I'm just going to continue that mindset as we roll into the holidays.
I think it also tees you up really well for, like you said, the timeline, but also like if someone's like, no, what about after the holidays? It gives you that opportunity to ask more questions and figure out what the objection is or what's really going on, to have a better conversation and to be able to provide more value.
For sure.
Well, you know what they say about assuming, right? No, I'm just kidding. I mean, assumptive selling is a great way to go about selling, but it's not my bag. It's not the way I like to go about things. I like to dig in and have the conversations surrounding what exactly we do for companies, the pains that we solve, and things like that. I assume pains because, I mean, at the end of my close, to continue the conversation, I say, I know y'all probably don't have these problems, but does any of that ring a bell at all? So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they don't have the problems, because if we're reaching out on enterprise to mature organizations, ideally for the prospect's best interest, they should be doing things that are going to help them move the processes in which we solve along. So assuming that they do have them would look bad on me, because then they could just turn around and be like, well, no, we actually have all this. I'm all set by. And it just cuts the conversation short, in my opinion. But again, it doesn't work for me. It's not something that I particularly like to do, but same with the permission-based opener. It works for me, doesn't work for other people.
Yeah. Cool, man. Yeah, there's definitely different perspectives to it. Another thing I wanted to bring up that we were talking about before the live stream was holiday discounts. I know this is something we've done internally at PandaDoc, but I want to get your guys' opinions on doing, holiday related discounts, TBIs, those sort of things. What's your opinion on that? How does that fit into the SDR process, if at all? Should you be talking about pricing or even potentially bringing up like holiday discounts, end of year discounts, those sort of things? Should you leave that to the AE, and just kind of overall opinion on that?
I think it depends on what context you have. So like some prospects that you're reaching out to, you're going to know if they are using a competitor, or if they had mentioned before, you were talking to them before about like pricing. And, I think it really just depends. But I also think the biggest thing is in the SDR position, having your AE involved, because the last thing you want to do is be like, yeah, I'll totally set you up for this discount. And then you get the AE involved for the demo, and they're like, yeah, so here's your price. And they're like, well, what about my discount? And then it's like, oh crap. And then it's a downward spiral from there. So I think it really just depends on the situation and how much information you can gather in that first call with getting your AE involved in that discount. But I know, Steven, you made a really good point when we were talking about it the other day.
Yeah, I don't think it's the SDR's job to talk about price in any capacity, unless the prospect asks. And typically, I've only ever been asked about what the pricing model is, not necessarily hardcore numbers. So, I mean, that's something that you can kind of just answer the question. You know what I mean? We price per user. We also price per document, yada, yada. Just depends on the needs of the customer. And then circle that back into your close. We wouldn't be able to give you a concrete number on really anything until we learn more about your process, what you need. And then the AE will be able to give you a more concrete number if a pricing conversation is warranted. But in terms of talking about price and how we're cheaper than our competitors, we don't know that for sure, because we don't know exactly what they're paying for their current provider, et cetera, et cetera. So ultimately, it could potentially devalue the product by saying we're cheaper, just as like a psychological thing. And then getting the AE on the call, and you've already told the prospect that we're cheaper, and that's what they're interested in. And then, like Andrea said, it turns out we're not. And then it just creates a muddy customer relationship. So.
Definitely. I think from an AE perspective, like TBIs could be beneficial to get those last minute deals in on the conversations that they're like, yes, we are committed to you guys. We might have to push it out into the new year. But just being able to say like, look, we have this time-based incentive. If you can sign by XYZ date, I think especially during the holidays, like it's kind of the best time to buy in terms of like discount wise for like companies as a whole. So from an AE's perspective, I think that can help them go a long way. From an SDR perspective, it's not really our conversation to technically have.
Yeah. Cam Sharp actually brought up a really good point in the chat. In the SDR setting, so if you're allowed to prospect after like your account executives close lost deals, and within your CRM, if you can see like what was the reason it was closed lost, if it was specifically a pricing reason for why it was closed lost, those are good accounts to reach back out to and say, hey, I know we were kind of off on the price. We're doing end of year discounts, holiday, and kind of use that to spark interest again and maybe close some of those deals last minute. But yeah, it's a good example, Cam. Appreciate it, man. We got another question from a LinkedIn user. I'm going to assume this is Travis Tyler because that's what the last one was, but it just says LinkedIn user. So shout out to Travis if that's you again. Keep bringing those questions. This is a funny one. What's the best or worst reaction you've had on cold outreach during the holidays? So like this year, last year, Thanksgiving, Christmas. What's the best worst reaction?
I've got one for worst one, not technically a worst one, but I sent a Panda Doc out for Thanksgiving to an account that had some interest in Panda Doc previously. They had signed up for a free trial. And so in the Panda Doc, I was like, are you open to a discussion? Click yes or say no and decline it. And he was just like, declined, no interest. I was just like, okay. Noted.
I'll let you know. I'll start cold FaceTiming with and videos with the outfit on today. So I'll let you know the responses I get.
Oh no, are we gonna revive the cold FaceTime?
I don't know.
We talked
do a separate live stream on that. I'll have to invite Alex on.
Honestly, I can't really think of a best or worst reaction to my outreach during the holidays. I don't know. I just get a bunch of people during the holidays because I mean, with everybody being mostly remote now, caveat, not everybody is remote. I primarily only call cell phones. So, I mean, regardless of what time of year it is, people tend to react poorly anyways. And it's usually just, how did you get my cell phone number?
Yeah.
And I like to have a little bit of fun with it and go like all Liam Neeson and just tell them that my boss told me I have a really particular set of skills. But then, I mean, it's not really the best reaction either because most people just hang up on me after the fact anyway. So
yeah, I've had, I guess recently, I wouldn't really say it was like the worst that I've ever gotten or I've heard of before, but I called the guy on his cell phone during lunch. You could hear him just eating in the background. So, I mean, we're all busy. So he's just eating and he like interrupted and he was like, I'm going to keep this conversation respectful before it gets out of hand. And I was just like, all right, have a great day. Like, and he like hung up on me after that. But he was just, I really bothered him during his lunch. He did not like that.
Yeah. And
I think it's funny that, I mean, our primary target for what we do is sales leaders. And my favorite thing is sales leaders during the holidays saying that they don't get new business from cold calls, especially during the holidays. And I'm like, okay, so what do you do?
Didn't you have a call like that the other day?
Yeah. Oh no, that was Keenan. He had one. He said that he called a sales leader and they said that they don't get new business from cold calling. I was like, I don't believe you for a second.
Why do you lie, liar?
Right? You sit on a throne of lies.
It's like email only. That's wild.
Steven, I want to bring up a topic kind of regarding the holiday outreach. When you joined back in July, a big thing that you provided us with was your amazing Panda Doc memes in your meme outreach. And so if you guys aren't doing this, I think it depends on the persona you're selling to. I think especially if you're selling to like marketing people or VPs of sales, they'll appreciate a meme. Some won't. Obviously, it's going to be both sides of the spectrum. But Steven has a lot of memes that we use in our outreach that have helped us get a lot of responses. And I think you have a holiday meme, right?
I do.
He hasn't tried it yet. It's as far as I can tell, but I know that if he does.
I whipped one up real fast a little bit ago. It's not my best work by any means, but I don't know if I can share my screen.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure if you can.
Hang on, I got it. I think maybe.
Steven's on a mission now.
Drop it in the chat. Do you guys use memes in your outreach at all? Yes or no? And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah,
it's actually-
I can't share it right now, unfortunately, because I don't have the ability. But the meme is the guy from Home Alone 1 sticking his head through the doggy door. And it says, salespeople after the holidays be like, I hope this email finds you well after your fantastic holiday experience, or some ridiculous intro to that email. I think my PandaDoc memes, though, and when I first started, I need to just like create a meme thread on a post and just share all my PandaDoc memes. Or give it to Travis, because he's the content king. So
yeah. Cool. Connect with Steven so you can go check out his memes, or you should share it in the LinkedIn post or whatnot.
I'm gonna change my title to PandaDoc Meme Lord.
Yeah. No, it's good stuff though. I mean, it is in a sense like a pattern interrupt. Not everybody's putting memes in there, especially if you can make it relevant to what a VP of sales would find funny or care about. Especially, we've seen all the data on images being used in your outreach and how they can be better than just a static email or videos, things of that nature. So I like it. Yeah, we got some good stuff in the chat. Cool. We got like 4 minutes. I want to ask, obviously, towards the end of the month, we're going to start getting a lot of out-of-office email replies. It's going to start seeing a lot of that. I want to ask the group, do you guys even care about out-of-office email replies? Do you use them at all? What are your thoughts on out-of-office email replies? Because I know there's a lot of strategies around that. So I'd be curious to hear your guys' perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think use it well, and just be really careful. So like if somebody has an out of office reply and it refers you to somebody else to contact, you don't want to contact that person and be like, hey, I just spoke to, you want to be like, hey, just reached out to so-and-so. They referred me over to you. But I don't know. I mean, I use out of office replies a lot for my friend and I maternity leave. Anytime we get it, we try to send them a maternity gift, like you want to use it as your benefit. And so with the holidays, you could get information where they're going or who the best person is to talk to. Use it in your pocket.
I think out of offices work really well, especially if you only have an email address for the prospect. 9 times out of 10, you'll get a signature back that has a phone number, which makes your life a lot easier. So if they have a specific date they're going to be back, then you can just set a reminder in your SEP, sales engagement platform, for anybody that doesn't know acronyms. And then have that reminder with their phone number saved in the reminder so you can know to call them, or obviously just update the contact info in SalesLoft. Yeah.
And something that Cole mentioned in the chat is something that I do as well. So I'll put every out of office email into a folder, and then add the reminder in SalesLoft so that way I can follow up with them on that date. And I learned that from Jed himself.
Also, I want to point attention at Josh Sternberg's question in the chat. It says, hey guys, as an 18-year-old, it still feels weird calling adults by their first name. When I eventually start cold calling, should I address prospects by their first name or their last name? Josh, as a 24-year-old, when I first started as an SDR, it felt weird calling adults by their first name. The biggest piece of advice I can give you on this is the people that you're calling are people too. If you worry about what their title is, whether the fact they're older than you in any capacity, it's going to make your conversations come up a lot less confident than they should.
Yeah.
So
they can't see your face.
It's gonna feel weird for a minute getting into that rhythm of contacting people. The more you do it, the more confident you're going to sound. And you also just need to detach from their title and the fact that they're older than you.
And to Stephen's point too, go in assumptively with their first name, but if their gatekeeper is referring to them as like Mr. Smith, then you can open up the conversation with, hi, Mr. Smith, XYZ just guided me in your direction, and just follow the flow. I think that that's another way to at least stay on top of it, in terms of like being professional, but not being uncomfortable as you being younger.
Yeah, they can't see you. And you, like, going back to what Steven said, you have that confidence. And the second that you don't really know what to call that person, they can hear it in their tone. They can hear it on the other end of the phone without seeing you. So as long as you're confident with how you deliver that first message, they have no idea.
Cool. Good advice, guys. Hopefully that helps, Josh. And shout out to Cole Ackerman. Go check him out on LinkedIn for the advice and the comments, man. Appreciate it. That's it, though. We're at the 12:30 mark, so we're going to cut it there. Thanks, guys, for joining the first live stream. Any final words, Haley, Andrew, Steve, that you guys want to share? Happy holidays.
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 Happy
Happy holidays.
Cool, guys. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you again
Thanks
soon.
for joining.